In the northern lands of Nigeria, where the arid desert stretches as far as the eye can see, there was a kingdom. Over this kingdom there ruled a new and young king. Among the king's most loyal servants was a man named Hamza, who served the royal house, protecting the king with unwavering dedication. His skills as a horseman were unmatched, and his wisdom was sought after by the elders of the village. Hamza lived with his only daughter Hassana, a young woman whose beauty was as radiant as the morning sun and whose heart was as kind as the earth itself. Hassana's unusually beautiful green eyes were a reflection of her beloved late mother, who came from a distant land to teach the king's children and had fallen in love with her father. The sands of time had blown and healed, and Hassana had grown up only knowing the tender love of her father, making her life whole. One fateful day, however, dark clouds gathered over Hamza's life. A priceless jewel, a gift from a neighboring kingdom, went missing from the king's treasury. Despite Hamza's lifelong loyalty, he was accused of the theft. The true thief, a jealous and conniving noble, had cleverly framed Hamza. Knowing that his influence and envy of Hamza's respect among the people would ensure that Hamza would take the blame. The king, believing the lies, was swift in his judgment. Hamza and Hassana were banished to the edge of the village, to a small desolate hut where the winds howled through the cracks in the walls, and the villagers treated them with disdain and suspicion. No one would speak to them, and even the children were forbidden from playing near their home. Hamza, heartbroken by the betrayal of his king and the suffering of his daughter, grew old and weary. The burden of injustice weighed heavily on him, and one cold night he passed away, leaving Hassana alone in a world that had turned its back on her. Grief-stricken and isolated, Hassana felt the walls of her world closing in on her. She could no longer bear the sorrow of her father's death and the cruelty of the villagers. Every night she would gaze at the stars, her only companions in the darkness, and pray for release. She wished to become a bird, to soar away from the pain and loneliness, to find a place where she could live in peace. One morning, as the first light of dawn broke through the trees, Hassana's wish was granted. She awoke to find herself transformed into a magnificent bird, her feathers shimmering in iridescence and with her beautiful green eyes. She spread her wings and took flight, leaving the village and its torment behind. With each beat of her wings, she felt the heavy burden of sorrow lift, and soon she found herself in a distant forest, far from the place of her suffering. The forest was a sanctuary of beauty and tranquility. Here, Hassana lived as a bird of the forest, nesting in the highest branches of an ancient tree. But the enchantment that had transformed her was complex and bittersweet. She could only return to her human form when shown genuine affection, a reminder of the love she had lost and longed for. Yet, life in the forest was not without its perils. Every day, as she flew off to gather food, a cunning predator would creep to her nest and steal her eggs. No matter how carefully she hid them, the thief would always find a way to snatch them, leaving Hassana heartbroken and desperate. She could not protect her eggs, and the forest, though beautiful, was still a place of struggle and survival. One day, while Hassana was out gathering berries, a young hunter named Juma wandered into the forest. Juma was also a widower, like her father, his heart heavy with the loss of his wife. He had come to the forest seeking solace, drawn by the beauty of the trees and the quiet whisper of the wind. As he walked, he noticed a peculiar nest high in a tree, unlike any he had seen before. Curiosity piqued, he sat down beneath the tree to observe it. When Hassana returned, she was startled to find Juma sitting near her nest. Her first instinct was to fly away, But there was something gentle in the way he looked at her nest, a kindness in his eyes that she had not seen in many years. Taking a chance, she flew down and perched on a branch near him. To her surprise, Juma did not try to harm her. Instead, he spoke softly to her, as if he understood her sorrow. Day after day, Juma returned to the forest. Each time, Hassana would approach him cautiously, and each time, he would greet her with the same gentle voice. Eventually, she found the courage to reveal her plight. In her bird form, she sang a sad melodic tune, conveying the story of her stolen eggs and the thief that tormented her. Moved by the bird's sorrow, Juma made a vow. "I will protect your nest while you are away," he promised. True to his word, Juma would sit beneath the tree every day, watching over the eggs with a watchful eye. When the sly thief came to steal them, Juma would chase it away, ensuring the safety of the precious eggs. As the days turned into weeks, a bond of trust and affection grew between Juma and the bird. Hassana could feel her heart stirring with emotions she had long thought lost. One day, as she returned to her nest, she felt a strange warmth enveloping her. As she approached Juma, her feathers began to shimmer with a soft glow, and before his astonished eyes, she transformed back into a woman, as beautiful and graceful as the bird she had been. Juma, though shocked, was not afraid. He recognized the woman as the source of the song that had touched his heart. Hassana too realized that Juma's kindness and affection had broken the spell. She fell to her knees, overwhelmed by the miracle that had occurred, and Juma knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. But as they embraced, the ancient tree began to tremble, and from the nest came the sound of cracking shells. Hassana and Juma looked up to see that the eggs had hatched, but instead of chicks, there were 3 beautiful children with the same iridescent eyes as the bird Hassana had once been. The children were her own, born of the magic that had once bound her. Juma and Hassana, united by love and the magic of the forest, decided to return to the village with their children. The villagers, upon seeing Hassana's return, were astonished and fearful, for they realized the wrong they had done. But Hassana, with Juma by her side, had no desire for revenge. Instead, she spoke to the king, revealing the truth of the theft that had condemned her father. The real thief, seeing his lies exposed, fled the village, never to return. The king, full of regret, offered Hassana and Juma a place of honor in the royal house, but they chose to live a quiet life in the forest, where their love had blossomed. And so, in the heart of the forest, Hassana, Juma, and their children lived a life filled with love, laughter, and the magic of a second chance. The tale of the enchanted bird and the kind hunter spread far and wide, reminding all who heard it that love, when given freely,